Hey guys, the last few weeks a lot of you asked me questions about salt. I then linked you my video which I made about the topic many years ago. It's only 5 minutes long, but it sums it up well. Some of you also mentioned this guy called Darko Welchuk. Today's video will be about him. I wasn't planning on making this video at all, probably ever, and that's because he also promotes eating raw meat. There's very few people who do, and right now I can only think of him and I. Ajnes Wonderplanet's obviously also used to, but he's not around anymore. Rest in peace. His information will live on. Liver King also partly did, but he more so ruined the image of raw meat, obviously. He was more of a laughing stock. And then Paul Saldina also promotes eating some raw liver, but there's nobody else who actually promotes only eating raw foods. He also doesn't. Actually, I didn't know about that up until recently. I had heard about him many years ago, but I didn't know what exactly he promotes. I didn't want to start some raw beef between raw meat eaters. Now that I found out what he actually promotes, I feel obliged to make this video. It's so irresponsible and dangerous. It's really beyond words. You're gonna see what I mean. We are gonna firstly look at one of his latest videos, and then we'll get into the details. SHP stands for Self-Healing Protocol, as far as I know.
Hello, my friends, esteemed colleagues, family.
The first thing that I notice is obviously how unhealthy he looks. His skin is completely dry, dehydrated. Even if you would be 150 years old, your skin shouldn't look like this. He's around 70, but I've seen people who are over 100 years old who don't have this kind of a skin. You can't see it right now, but if you look later, the skin right here is completely dry. I've never actually seen that on a human being before. And once you will understand what he promotes, which is drinking salt water, you're gonna understand exactly what's going on. I'm gonna explain to you what it does to the body biochemically. And what I also notice is that all of the collagen is gone. It's incredibly dark here. It reminds me of all the raw vegans in my videos. The eyes are completely sinking into the skull. It's also abnormal. That shouldn't happen at any age. It's really crazy. Let me show you what I mean. He right away reminded me of this guy. Also very similar eyes and everything. He really looks like a starved raw vegan fruitarian, even though he eats raw meat. And that's what salt does to you, whatever you eat. And this guy also, incredibly similar. He really looks very similar to this guy also, as far as his body weight goes, skin condition and everything. This guy ended up dying. I'm afraid that he will end up having organ failure from the salt water, and people are going to blame it on raw meat. Then again, almost nobody knows about him, so I guess it doesn't really matter still though.
Hello, my friends, esteemed colleagues, family. I have been asked many times how to safely start the self-healers protocol. Well, what is the self-healers protocol?
As you can also notice, he talks very slowly. It's really hard for him to form sentences. Obviously, once you understand what salt does to the brain, it's no surprise. We're going to talk about that.
It is allowing body to heal itself without our intervention. Self-healing. And our bodies are perfectly designed to do that.
He's actually right about that. You don't need anything external except for food, obviously. But no powders, creams, whatever people want to sell you today. The body always heals itself, yeah.
Maintain themselves healthy. If we make error, body will cleanse itself and reestablish the healthy state. It's all about vibration. Every cell is designed to vibrate in a certain way.
And this is where, of course, we will completely disagree, because I'm not religious whatsoever. He believes in vibrations and energy, whereas I'm completely all about biology, biochemistry, because this is what helped me understand everything about human health. That's also what Ajna's Wonder Planets was all about.
And the vibration identifies it. So it's what is happening with the cell is happening with a tissue, with the organ, with the body as such. Overall, it's like an orchestra. You can have a single instrument, you can have few instruments together, creating a tissue. You can have a bunch of same instruments creating organ, and different groups of instruments creating orchestra.
Also, as you can hear, a lot of the talk is just gibberish. People don't even understand what he's talking about most of the time, seeing as it's just a lot of spiritual vibration ideas, again, very similar to the raw vegans and fruitarians. Because once you starve yourself, or in this case more so damage the organs, especially the brain, not a lot of stuff that makes sense is going to come out of your mouth.
The body is orchestra. It's a robotic orchestra. Runs on
robotic orchestra. Yeah. And nobody knows what he's talking about most of the time in most of the videos.
Electricity through vibration. Now, as it is designed a certain way, it is designed with certain vibration. When the vibration is maintained, we are healthy, we are happy, everything is fine. The problem is when the vibration shifts, because again, we are running on programs. And everything that we experience in our reality is nothing else than interpretation of the vibration through our sensory programmed.
Okay, yeah, I think you get what's going on here. Really, I wouldn't even need to comment on any of this. It's self-explanatory.
Well, we can think of, let's say, coffee. Try to recall first time you tried coffee.
I've never tried it in my life. Thankfully, I've only smelled it. It smells poisonous, so I never tried it.
It's disgusting. Disgusting. You cannot even drink it. Now, bitter, awful taste tells you that your body does not like it. Yeah, but, we want to imitate others. Oh, everybody, grown-ups drink coffee, so, I'm getting grown up, I can do it now.
He's right about that.
And then you go, sugar, sugar, sugar.
Yeah, that's what I always say, sugar and milk, yeah.
Okay? Same is with beer, same is with wine, same is with alcohol of any kind. And what happens? Since you keep providing this stuff, your body starts genetically adjusting to this.
He's partly right about this. However, it's really close to hypocritical almost for him to talk about this. It for sure doesn't make any sense, because he promotes drinking water with salt, or actual sea water, which is more disgusting than any coffee, any alcohol on earth. Imagine the worst, black coffee or whatever, nothing tastes as horrible as salt water. So he's saying basically your senses tell you not to drink that garbage, which I always also talk about, but then he promotes something which your senses completely reject. Actually, let's go to some videos. I'll show you what I mean. I'm gonna blur this for YouTube because I don't want to show it. Maybe I will link it in the description. You can check it out yourself. But basically, it's just people drinking salt with water, which is what he promotes. So he has to spit it out right away because it's so disgusting. Okay, so you get it. Let's check out more.
Right, this line, yeah. You got can't spit it out as well. You can't spit it out. You can't spit it out.
And that was just a little bit of salt and water.
Just quick gulp. That's gonna be the winner, isn't it? Did you drink? You drink it? Yeah. Oh, screw you.
Alright, there's lots of videos like that. Point being, he talks people into doing something that they hate, which completely goes against their senses. And then he talks about not drinking coffee and alcohol, which is better for you than salt water because of how insanely toxic it is. Also, in reference to what I was saying before, there's a lot of comments on his videos saying that he looks unhealthy. You should only listen to somebody who looks healthy when it comes to health. It's just how it is, because it means that what they are doing is good. And if somebody looks unhealthy, then it's bad for them. And what they promote is also bad for you. Then automatically, yeah, at least a lot of people notice it. That's good.
So it can tolerate it because it's a poison. And once when it's adjusted, it stops bothering you. And now since you are adjusted in this way, you kind of feel bad when it's not coming because you have programmed yourself for this particular frequency.
Yeah, but again, it's not a frequency. You're addicted to the adrenaline, for example. It's purely biochemistry. But again, he is not into biochemistry at all. He's into spirituality, essentially, vibrations. So you're addicted to the vibration, basically, even though there's a very easy scientific explanation behind it.
And the body is going to try to eliminate these frequencies out. It eliminates them from the blood through blood cleansing organs. And when we are low on blood plasma, what is urine? Blood plasma. With less minerals, because body is trying to hold minerals, it needs them, but it cannot hold all of them. So when you try urine, it's salty. You are losing plasma all the time. When you're urinating, defecating, sweating, crying, you have to replenish it. And we are being incorrectly guided because, again, remember that our knowledge comes through rock, through they want population.
So this is very interesting. He says that our knowledge, information, the whole educational system comes from the Rockefellers, all of these families. But then at the same time, salt is in pretty much every food you can buy at the supermarket, over 90%. And if you go and eat at the restaurant, really you can't even find a meal without salt, except if it's some kind of sweet ice cream. But any sauce you will buy, any fast food, really just most of the stuff you will buy, it will always have salt inside. Oftentimes also because it's used as a preservative. Salt is so toxic that it kills every living organism, every cell of every animal, and it's considered to be anti-bacterial, as in it's an antibiotic. That's why you destroy your gut microbiome when you eat salt also. And that's why it used to be put around meat, because then you could preserve the meat for winter, for example, because nothing that's alive can get through it because it kills off everything on the outside. So when you ingest salt, obviously it just kills off what's inside of your body, the microbes and your own human cells, animal cells. It's the same thing. It should be clearly understood why salt is used as a preservative. It's because it kills. It's because it's an antibiotic. Otherwise, I don't think that people understand what it actually does to the body when you ingest it. He would probably argue that they only add so-called table salt, sodium chloride, to these foods, and that there's a difference between them. There is a difference. There's more toxic heavy metals in some more than others, but they all have them. They are toxic also for that reason. That's a different story. I'm not going to talk about that. In Himalayan salt, for example, there's crazy amounts of toxic heavy metals, because you got to understand that there is no salt in nature. These crystallized rocks, and supposedly Himalayan salt comes from these rocks mixing with lava. That's why it has that color. Whatever the case, it's toxic anyway. if you understand the origin, maybe some people may not consume it. That's a good thing to learn about it. But my point is simply that in nature as such, there is no salt anywhere. And then if some places dry up, it can create these crystallized rocks. And that's what we consume today. And for sure, some of it is worse than other rocks, but it's all just crystallized rocks anyway, which don't exist in nature and which we shouldn't be consuming anyway. If his point is that the educational system is controlled, which I agree with, obviously, then why would they push salt so incredibly much? There is no difference between sea salt, whatever, Celtic, Himalayan, think of anything you want. At the end of the day, it's just these crystallized rocks, and it's mostly sodium and chloride in crazy amounts. And then you can argue that some have some trace amounts of other minerals. Irrelevant. It's really micro amounts of what you need. Totally irrelevant.
So again, what do you think they teach us doctors to do when people, sick people that vibrate incorrectly, come seeking help? Well, we are guided to push them further, not to heal them, because no doctor knows how the body really works. No doctor knows origin of any chronic disease, because we have been misguided through biochemistry.
You see what I mean? We are misguided through biochemistry. Yeah, that's really his mindset. As I said, I learned everything through biochemistry. It was very important. Of course, not naturally, it didn't explain the meaning of my life or anything, but as far as nutrition goes, being able to explain to other people and understanding what happens in the body, it was the key to it all. Same with Ajna's Wonder Planets. He worked in a laboratory with experts for over 20 years analyzing what exactly happens in the body. This was all biochemistry, and also when it comes to salt, which I will talk about in a second. But Darko Welchuk is all about spirituality and vibrations, unexplainable. That's why if you would present to him what actually happens in the body when you consume toxic salt, all salt is toxic, I'm just trying to point out that it's toxic, then he would not respond to it because biochemistry is basically irrelevant to him.
Biochemistry is a bunch of baloney.
Exactly. Really messed up.
It's an electronic robot. We need physics. We don't need chemistry. And the new equipment, healing equipment that will be released shortly, are all based on adjusting frequency, either through light, sound, and the most sophisticated is strictly electromagnetic, because these are all electromagnetic frequencies, but they can be transported through the other means like sound and light.
Okay, that's it. I don't even need to comment about it. You get it.
We need way more plasma than we need food. And he was drinking seawater. There's no other option.
This is the last part that I wanted to talk about from this video. It's about plasma. He promotes drinking seawater or water mixed with salt. And he says that it's similar to plasma, even though biochemically, which he doesn't care about, I get it, there's no relation whatsoever, as in zero. I don't mean a little bit. Oh yes, this and that is somewhat similar to plasma. There's no relation whatsoever. But again, he doesn't care about chemistry at all. He only cares about vibrations and frequencies. And to him, because of these religious beliefs, it's somehow similar to plasma. Plasma is made up of animal nutrients, hormones, and there's no relation whatsoever. And the people who listen to him maybe also don't care about biochemistry. I don't know what's up with them. There's very few of them, to be fair, but they also somehow go along with it. There's been people on my videos who comment, oh, but shouldn't we drink seawater, which is similar to plasma? How is it similar? There's no similarities in any way at all, chemically. And they just don't get it. They just religiously listen to him. Oh, the frequency and vibration is similar. Oh, cool. Oh, okay. How can you prove that? Well, I can't, but my religion says so. So that's it. That's what you're dealing with. It's crazy.
And when they rescued him, he was in perfect health. No problem. Skinny, but perfect health.
I don't know what he's talking about. Skinny? Like yourself? What do you mean?
So, again, understanding body correctly is the key. And how to start the protocol, it all depends on your state in which you are right now. If you are obese, stopping eating and go on fasting
Oh my god, he also promotes starvation. Wow.
with plasma,
With plasma, but you don't promote drinking plasma. Plasma would be good. Blood itself, of course, would be best. You don't need to separate it. You promote drinking toxic salt water, which causes vomiting and diarrhea.
you drink water with low salt, and you don't eat, so you're not poisoning yourself.
But you literally are. Salt is a toxin.
The body will go very quickly into ketogenic state, which doctors say, no, this is bad, bad, bad.
Ketosis is fine now and then. A lot of doctors also say that babies are in ketosis.
Well, this is our original state. If you stop poisoning your body, it switches in ketogenic. And then if you eat correctly, it remains in ketogenic state.
Pretty much most of the time, depending on the season, most of the time in most climates you would be in ketosis most likely. Can be argued about tropical places.
Like every other animal. They're all in ketogenic state.
Oh yeah, I don't know about all of them. Cows are. Has it been studied? Maybe most of them are. Maybe all of them are, yeah. It's possible. A lot of them do eat a lot of carbs. This hasn't been studied yet. They for sure aren't always. You could at most argue that they are most of the time.
Salt is one of the worst things a cancer patient, anybody can do next to cooking. Why is that? Because sodium is an explosive. It is more volatile than nitroglycerin. If you take pure sodium and put it into one block about the size of a football, it will take out New York City and all of its buildings. Just one block that size. My father worked on, he was an inventor, he invented his first bearing computer. He worked on jet engines for the military and General Electric, and they were given $2 billion to make sodium into a weapon. But it was so volatile that just 1.5 degree temperature change would set it off. They couldn't control it anywhere like nitroglycerin, and they still don't use nitroglycerin as a weapon because they can't control it. Sodium is worse. So what happens when salt, it has other minerals bound with it, of course, unless it's sodium chloride or sodium iodide, which is manufactured. So that neutralizes it while it's in your mouth, but you can hear it popping, you can hear it cutting into the mucus. You gargle with it and it breaks down mucus. It's an explosive. So what happens when it gets into the blood, your body separates the sodium and all of a sudden it starts exploding. Now, when a cell eats, it eats 93 to 117 nutrients. That's every nutrient on this planet in a smorgasbord. And a cell opens by ionization, and it absorbs that smorgasbord in and eats a balanced diet. When you use salt, even just 2 little bitty grains at a meal, you will kill 2 million red blood cells and make every cell in your blood deficient. It will break that molecule, it'll start breaking up those clusters of smorgasbord, and the cell may get anywhere from 23 to 70 nutrients instead of 93 to 117. So your body goes under constant deficiency.
Now let's get to the most important part. Salt will always be toxic for the human body. If you have children, then you probably know that you shouldn't feed a baby or even older children salt, because a baby can die from a very small amount, whereas an adult will throw up and have diarrhea from it because your body tries to detox from the toxic salt. Depending on the body weight of the baby, 1 to 2 grams of salt will be deadly for the baby. And the more cells you have, the more body mass you have, the bigger you become, the older you grow, the more salt you will be able to tolerate. That's why when you eat typical fast food, really most food today, you're micro dosing toxins. That's what you do when you ingest salt. That's why it's of course not deadly. It just kills your cells and poisons you. That's why you feel so dehydrated, you have headaches from it, but it's not deadly. The same amount that you as an adult can ingest is deadly for a baby. It should simply be understood that there's nothing you can do to change this. Salt will always be toxic for you. Just because you don't die from it as an adult doesn't mean anything. You're still killing your cells. If something is toxic for a being, no matter how old the being is, it's always going to be toxic for the being. Meaning that if you die from salt as a baby, it just means that you poison yourself slowly when you're an adult. That's it. If something is toxic for a being, it's just toxic for the being. The age is irrelevant. It's just sometimes deadly when you're younger, and when you're older, because of more body mass, you kill your cells without actually dying from it because you have more cells. Ginger is toxic for the human body at any age. It's simply deadly for a baby. Take anything you want, any toxic vegetables, root vegetables specifically, all of these detox juices, it's all the same. But a lot of these people believe that you detox from something that's inside of you when you consume seawater or water mixed with salt. That doesn't exist. If you ingest something and it poisons you, then you will respond by having diarrhea because you want to get rid of it, or you will vomit because you want to get rid of it. There's no food on this earth that makes you detox on the spot. That doesn't exist. Liver is going to help you to detox, but slowly, and you will most likely never even notice anything because detoxing is a slow process that happens over days, weeks, months, and it feels good essentially. But when you ingest something and you right away want to throw up or have diarrhea, you feel super horrible, you poisoned yourself. And everybody who consumes salt water says that they feel this because you poison yourself. That should be clearly understood. There's nothing on this earth that helps you to detox right away. You ingest something and it helps you to detox whatever toxins there are in your cell. That doesn't exist. It's simply in your stomach. You feel nauseous and then you throw up and have diarrhea because it's toxic. Your body tries to eliminate it quickly.
Salt demineralizes, destroys intestinal bacteria, causes all kinds of problems. Sure, it'll get rid of symptoms galore, but it does it just like an antibiotic. It is ruthless. The second worst thing to cooking is salt.
Not even sugar?
No, sugar's not as bad as salt.
Soy sauce too.
Sugar will, in the intestinal tract, the sugar doesn't necessarily break down and destroy bacteria as easily as salt does, because salt dehydrates the bacteria, completely dries it up. Sugar doesn't.
Now remember this, it will be important as we go on. 0.5 to 1 gram of salt per kilogram of body weight is toxic for the human body, meaning that if you have a baby and he or she is 2 to 3 kilograms, then very little salt will be lethal for this baby. Whereas if you have a child and he or she is 30 kilograms, then 15 to 30 grams will be lethal for this child. On average, it always depends. I wouldn't risk it, obviously, at all. You should simply be aware of what you're doing to your body and your family members. Now, let's go to these reports. There was a systematic review of fatalities from ingesting salt to assess if relatively moderate doses of salt could be fatal. In 27 reports, there were 35 fatalities documented, 19 in adults, 16 in children. The lethal dose was estimated to be less than 10 grams of sodium. There's, of course, a difference between salt and sodium. Sodium is a mineral. Salt is this crystallized rock. But I've already explained that in the past. It doesn't really matter in this case. There was in 2 children, less than 25 grams of sodium in 4 adults. The frequency of fatal ingestion of salt is not able to be discerned from our review. The hospital records indicate that salt overdoses are relatively common. Consideration could be given to placing warning labels on salt containers and shakers. I don't think that they do that. Such warning labels can have the added advantage of reducing dietary salt consumption. But you see it everywhere in so-called health food stores, organic stores, along with the green juices. Way too little people are aware of this. Also, as I said, on average, that specific number is lethal. Of course, as you can see, even smaller amounts can be. That's why you shouldn't mess around with salt at all. There were 19 fatalities reported in 16 females and 3 males, blah, blah, blah. In 12 fatalities, assault was administered as an emetic. That's for the human being to throw up. Maybe they ate something bad, some kind of procedure. Whatever the case, it's typical for the human to throw up because obviously it's toxic, and that's why they did that. Whatever the circumstances were. In 4, the salt was administered as a part of an exorcism ritual. That actually makes sense. And then they died from that. That's crazy. In 3, ingestion was inadvertently mistaking salt for sugar. Wow. That's a messed up way to go. And in 1, for the reason ingestion was unknown. The average lower and average higher estimated doses of sodium ingestion was 60 to 118 grams, respectively. Of course, we don't know how big they were, how much they weighed, none of that. It's always going to depend on your body weight. That goes for any toxins. The ingested doses in individuals were estimated to range from 6 to 400 grams. In 4 fatalities, the estimated sodium dose ingested was under 25 grams. Yup. I wanted to go over this because of what he promotes himself. On his own blog, he talks about drinking plasma, which he doesn't even promote, but he calls it plasma, even though, again, it has no chemical relation to it whatsoever. Again, as in zero. I just want to repeat it so that it's clear how delusional he is. It's really crazy. And I think that the salt did that also. That's really the sad part. By drinking very salty plasma, it doesn't make any sense. What he's saying, let's say 40 grams per liter of water or more. Do you understand? Oh my God, man. Oh my God. How crazy this is. So dangerous, so irresponsible. We will oversaturate the body with minerals. Well, no, you won't. With sodium and chloride, as in 100 times more than your body can tolerate, which is why you will have a mineral imbalance and even more, which I will talk about. And I will also show clips from Ajna's Wonder Planets who actually study this on a biochemical level, which is irrelevant to him. And the body will now need way more water to get those minerals out of the body. No, it's just a response to the toxicity. That's it. One will immediately experience profound diarrhea and thirst. Yes, obviously, as the body will require more water to eliminate those minerals. What are you talking about, man? He even shows and writes about it himself, how bad it is. I love the ending, love and light to us all. Yes, the light, the vibrations and frequencies. Open your chakras to the toxic salt and let it detox you by vomiting and having diarrhea. What the fuck, man? It's also interesting what Ajna's Wonder Planets wrote about this topic. I worked with people who had long histories of headaches. 90% of these people ate a lot of salt. When they stopped consuming all types of condiment salts, which are radical, that is harmful, including sea salt, they stopped having frequent headaches, of course. Periodically, their headache returned. Whenever the headaches returned, I had their blood and urine analyzed. Each analysis showed sodium molecules clumping, just as if they had recently consumed condiment salts, seeing as they are everywhere, because you're being slowly poisoned, essentially. They assured me they hadn't I guess, consumed any. Yeah. Also, all of the analysis showed high levels of dead cells, which I will get to in a second, especially liver and brain cells. The conclusion I drew was that radical salts had stored in the body and killed the surrounding cells by dehydrating them. Exactly. I realized that the salt and dead cells in the blood and urine indicated that the body was cleansing salt and dead cells, and that salt stored throughout the body, especially in the brain and sometimes the liver and brain. And this makes complete sense.
They took fresh frog legs, freshly slaughtered, put salt on them. Those legs are just jumping all over the place. They put pepper on some and just one twitch. Now pepper, you think it burns and hot and do damage. However, if you understand the chemistry between the two, that sodium is an explosive, you see why that. And it goes on. They sprinkle it on once, and they leave the camera on for 3 minutes, and it spasms the whole time. They're not putting more salt on it. Salt is a dangerous chemical.
People say now the Himalayan salt. See,
It's salt is salt. It's concentrated sodium. And when it goes into the body, your body separates so much of it, isolates it into pure sodium. So it goes around blowing up cells. It clumps together.
The reason I showed you what Ajnes found out about it in the laboratory is because it perfectly aligns with the reported causes of death from ingesting salt, which are usually the same. Especially in babies, it's caused by hemorrhagic necrosis. This means that the organs, which are the ones that are affected, the actual cause of death, rupture essentially. Necrosis just means that the cells die, your whole body dies, in this case, the organs. It's a pretty messed up way to die, and this also happens in adults, except that you need a lot more salt for this to happen. And what also happens is that your brain swells, which again was reported. It all perfectly aligns with what Ajnes found out. And this is caused by any salt, table salt, Himalayan salt, sea salt, name your favorite salt. When you consume very little, you're simply microdosing and causing small amounts of necrosis. That's it. The swelling is a body's response, really, to the toxicity. But in the end, you have brain damage or liver damage, and these organs rupture and you die. And if you have a small being, then salt will be the end of them. That's why what he promotes is worse than really what any vegan, raw vegan, fruitarian, even breatharian promotes, because it's one of the worst ways to die. Salt is that incredibly dangerous.
Cops claim Spears poisoned her son with lethal levels of salt, severe headache and convulsions.
He was having seizures. In the middle of those was a sea salt container.
Sea salt.
Sea salt. A few seconds, minutes, he turned into the most sick child, burying his head into the bed, the pillow, turning, retching. He was trying to throw up.
Lacey gave Garnett a lethal dose of salt, which moments later caused his brain to swell and ultimately killed him.
The main thing to take away from this video is that if something is toxic for an animal, then it always will be toxic. No matter how old you are, a baby animal will simply respond worse to these toxins because the animal is smaller. The bigger animal will still suffer, but not as much. It will kill your cells, it will damage your organs, but if it's small amounts, then you won't notice it, except if you do it all the time. Eventually, of course, you will notice the damage. That applies to any toxins, also sea toxins. Chocolate can be consumed even by bigger dogs. It's always bad for them. It also depends on how the animal can detox from these toxins, but a puppy is of course gonna respond to it very badly, and they can actually die from a lot of chocolate. Again, it's just about the size. It's the same reason why you can shoot a tranquilizer into a horse, but you will need a lot of this poison for the horse to sleep, But if it's a smaller horse, you will need less. It's always been the same, but it's always going to be bad for the animal. It's just sometimes not as noticeable. This self-healer's protocol is all about ignoring your senses, not listening to your intuition. It's counterintuitive, the same as raw veganism, fruitarianism. That's why they look so similar, the people who do that. Very old, dehydrated skin, dark eye circles, actually literally circles all around, all collagen gone, completely dehydrated as much as you can be. Really, he looks worse than most raw vegans and fruitarians. It's really messed up. And it's really crazy that he talks about listening to your sense of taste, but then ignoring it when it comes to something else that he promotes. And really, coffee compared to water with salt is a delicacy. I've never tried it, but I can imagine. Or take whatever you want, ginger juice. I've tried ginger. When you think about salt water, it's almost actually pleasant to consume ginger juice. This was really one of the most messed up things I've ever reviewed. Like I said, one of the most irresponsible, delusional, and dangerous people out there. Thankfully, almost nobody takes him seriously. Thanks for watching.